Every year, we meet to help bridge the gap between what is pledged to UNRWA and what is needed. This year is different. Yes, we face a profound funding gap, but Palestinians are seeing widening gaps across the board. Gaps in respect for international humanitarian law, gaps in recognition of universal human rights and dignity for all. And for Palestinians in Gaza, not just a gap, but death, destruction, and a total breakdown in law and order. Just when we thought it couldn't get any worse in Gaza, somehow, appallingly, civilians are being pushed into ever deeper circles of hell. Recent days have brought yet more evacuation orders by Israeli authorities, yet more civilian suffering, and yet more bloodshed. Palestinians in Gaza keep being forced to move like human pinballs across a landscape of destruction and death. The extreme level of fighting and devastation is incomprehensible and inexcusable, and the level of chaos is affecting every Palestinian in Gaza and all those desperately trying to get aid to them. Nowhere is safe. Everywhere is a potential killing zone. It is high time for the parties to show the political courage and political will to finally reach a deal. Excellencies, nothing justifies the horrific attacks by Hamas on October the 7th, and nothing justifies the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. Yet Palestinians, including of course Palestine refugees, are enduring the deadliest period since the agency's creation. And we are all painfully aware the horror has not spared UNRWA colleagues. 195 UNRWA staff members have been killed, the highest staff death toll in UN history. And many of them were killed together with their families and loved ones. And UNRWA is also being targeted in other ways. Staff have been subject to increasingly violent protests and virulent misinformation and disinformation campaigns. Some have been detained by Israeli security forces and subsequently reported mistreatment and even torture. In the occupied West Bank, the presence and movements of UNRWA personnel have been severely restricted by Israeli authorities. Yet, despite these and other obstacles, in impossible conditions, and in the midst of their own grief, the women and men of UNRWA have bravely continued their work in whatever way they can. They are the backbone of humanitarian operations in Gaza. And can you imagine what it must be like to be in this situation? Can you imagine how our colleagues wake up day after day in a living nightmare and still deliver for Palestinians in desperate need? Because I cannot. They are doctors, nurses, counselors, engineers, drivers, and so many others, all demonstrating incredible courage and solidarity. And they are continuing to deliver UNRWA's mandate in desperate circumstances in Gaza, while UNRWA also strives to deliver in an increasingly challenging situation in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, and in Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria, championing human development and human rights. Excellencies, hopelessness is the greatest ally of instability, and the work of UNRWA is one of the greatest factors providing hope and stability across this troubled region. Without the necessary support and financing to UNRWA, Palestine refugees will lose a critical lifeline and the last ray of hope for a better future. To those of you who have already pledged support, I thank you. And my appeal to everyone is this: protect UNRWA, protect UNRWA's staff, and protect UNRWA's mandate, including through funding. And let me be clear, there is no alternative to UNRWA. We are working on all fronts to implement the recommendations of the Catherine Colonna report by strengthening UNRWA's work and risk management mechanisms. Now is also the time to work on all fronts to support UNRWA's critical mission. And now is the time to bring an end to this terrible war, starting with an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza and an immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. Ultimately, only a political solution can bring an end to this conflict, one that realizes a vision of two states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security, with Jerusalem as the capital of both states. I urge you to act, and act now, and to instill hope in a place where it is in short supply. Act to uphold the mandate of this General Assembly to sustain UNRWA. Act in solidarity with the Palestine refugees and all the Palestinian people, and I thank you.